Well, how much is Christmas really going to cost? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you got a question for me, I want to make sure that you get an answer to that question. All you have to do is go to prudentmoney.com, go to the up to the top of the page where it says Ask Prudent Money, and we'll get you taken care of. Just hit the link and type in your question, and we will get back with you and help either point you in the right direction or help you ourselves, or however we can get some resources to you. We will do it. That's off the website www.prudentmoney.com. Well, yesterday or actually 2 days ago, get my days mixed up. 2 days ago, we talked about surviving Christmas inflation. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about what is happening as far as inflation is going. And I see two problems that are on the horizon. The first is so much of what I'm talking about is information that it catches people by surprise. It's almost one of these things where that's really going on. Yeah, absolutely, it's going on, and it's almost like inflation behind closed doors. You know something doesn't seem right. You know things seem a little bit more expensive, but you really can't just pinpoint what it is. Well, today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why it makes sense to look at Amazon for an answer, look at Target and Walmart, the big three, and try to figure out from the standpoint of when do you buy Christmas gifts. And what might shock you is, and I'm going to be doing that this weekend, is way sooner than later because this becomes a much bigger problem as we get closer to Christmas because inflation is a supply and demand type scenario. And I look at today as a situation where we're on the very front end. Most retailers have, about what they're going to have product wise in stock, and anything beyond that or availability beyond that will be a January, February type of an event. And it also might be an event that is much more expensive. So I would, and this is just my own opinion, I may be completely wrong, but whether I'm right or wrong, certainly it'll be an advantage for a number of reasons. But I think it's extremely important that you get organized, like we talked about a couple of days ago, and get your shopping done. Because let me say something that I feel very confident about. I doubt that you're going to get lower prices come the say 4 or 5 weeks. I would think that you probably won't get lower prices than what we're looking at right now, maybe for 8 to 10 to 12 months, much less just the Christmas season. So there's a lot of wisdom behind getting this done and getting it behind you. And you may find that this is something you'll do, for inflation or not, because it's a great feeling to be able to sit back and watch everybody else go crazy, and you enjoy the Christmas spirit and what Christmas is about, the birth of Christ. So, but what I want to do is just give you some narrative, and I like to do this because I want to keep you in the game. I want you to know exactly what's going on and be informed because so many people, and that's not a criticism, so many people are uninformed because of a couple of reasons. First one is they don't understand a lot of it, and we really try to cut through that and remove that problem. And I know that I'm not always effective at that, but I certainly do try. And we need to make sure that you're in the know of what's going on. And the first thing that I think that's happening, we've talked about investment bubbles, and we won't focus on the bonds and interest rates or any of the other things going on. We're just going to focus on stocks because what I think is happening is that there are in the grand scheme of things, when I say a handful of stocks, I mean a handful of companies that are instigators and trying to get this whole AI environment put together and get the phenomenon going. And this was the same type of situation we saw with the internet and internet companies back in, oh gosh, back in 1999, 2000. And the problem that it poses is that it makes today. Let's say take this for instance, and then we'll compare it to 1999. It makes it look like all the companies are that much more valuable because they're going to jump on the AI bandwagon and they're going to change everything over. They're going to cut jobs, they're going to cut expenses, and they're going to be lean and mean and be able to do things at half the time and just all these wonderful things they're going to be able to do because of AI. Well, you got to realize a lot of that, yes, there's a lot of AI that is already in place and currently happening, but there's also a lot of AI that's just in the minds of companies and things they want to do. And so what's happening is that you have your companies are being valued on what they think's going to happen, not what is really happening. And I think that what we're going to see, and I call it a nasty transition. I have no doubt in my mind that at one point there will be tons of AI running a lot of different function and playing a lot of roles and running a lot of functions in today's business world. No question in my mind is that, when it's in full go, is that 2 years now, 5 years from now, next year? I doubt it's next year, but Wall Street's acting like it is next year. And so I think what you're going to see is you're going to see two bands of resistance. Number one, you're going to see the corporations that go, yeah, this sounds like a good idea, but I'm gonna wait a little while and see it pan out, see other companies do it. And of course, the biggest kickback you get to that from AI companies is, hey, if you snooze, you lose, and if you don't get on top of what's going on and get into the trends, you're going to be behind. So I see a lot of reluctance of companies going towards this, cutting jobs. I mean, making some major steps. And then the second thing is, are these companies that are real heavy into AI starting to use it, starting to cut jobs because of it, and that is going on. There's something estimated like 60,000 or so job losses because of AI so far this year. And so you look at all that and you you start thinking of it from the standpoint of Wall Street valuations. These companies are going to make so much money. I'm going to hop on board. When really it's at such the beginning stage, and it's going to take. I think it's going to take a lot more. And I'm by no means an AI expert by any stretch. I just think it's not going to go as smoothly and that these companies are worth the valuations that they're being given. So what I mean by that is you're buying a stock, normally an average $10 stock based on the fact you think because of AI it's going to be a $17 stock. So you're buying it now, but it's probably only worth about $7 or $8 a share. And so at some point, you've got to see that stock lose its excess value and come down to what it's truly valued. And that's what we saw in 1999 with the big tech bust. There were internet companies that were sponsoring and buying Super Bowl ads of $1 million a minute and spending millions upon millions of dollars on advertising, only to be bankrupt a year later, because so many of these companies, people were buying stock in these companies because of an idea. And these companies, a lot of these companies weren't even making profits. It was kind of a shell that people were banking on. So once again, investors in Wall Street had these internet stocks valued way higher than they actually were worth. And of course, that came crashing down. I'll never forget going to a meeting, an investment meeting at a company. I think it was with my cousin, who was a banker at the time, still is, and he wanted me to see this company, and you had all these people who were ready to at that time write a check and for saying and give money over to these founders of this company who didn't even have a product. All they had was what's called a pro forma that said what this company should be doing in, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Kind of crazy. And of course, that company went belly up like so many of them did. I don't think that we're going to have a severe situation as the tech crisis, but I think we're going to that there's other issues. Plus, this transition is not going to be as profitable as so many in Wall Street maybe think it is. And how long does that until people wake up to that? Who knows? I think they're starting to wake up to it. And like I said, we got a lot of moving parts going on right now, and the realization of what you thought that meant and what it truly means, and how all that works out is, I think, the big, big, big risk. So we will continue to watch that and keep you posted. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. If you got a question for me, go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. When you do get to the website, there is a link at the top of the page, and you just ask Prudent Money, and we do answer those questions ourselves. I do, and I love to get them, so never hesitate. I'm always here to answer those and help you out. This is Bob Brooks. We're up against a break. Stick around. I'll be right back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. We're talking about what's kind of going on behind the scenes and this transition from where we are now to a world full of AI, what that really looks like, how that compares to 1999, what happened when the stock market lost 45% over a couple of years time period. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to digest. If you missed the first part of the program, you can always go to wherever you like to pick up and listen to your podcast, your favorite podcast. Hopefully, Prudent Money is one of them. And you can always catch today's show or any of the shows. And I am talking about this in real time. And a lot of it, of course, is by assumptions that are being made. But I don't think if I'm off, I don't think I'm too far off. So, but it will give you an idea of what we're up against and what some tips, like if you're going to do your not your grocery shopping, if you're going to do your Christmas shopping, do it now and get it over with, get it out of the way, where you don't have what I think is going to be a mess around Christmas, the week before Christmas, as far as rising prices. Let's talk turkeys. Turkeys. Wait a minute. Before we talk turkeys, let's go ahead. Let's skip that one. Let's go to turkeys. How about that? As if you didn't know where we were going next. Lowest supply in 40 years because of bird flu. 25% of an increase in price is what they're looking at. Now, I am unsure if that's already happening or already happened or it's going to happen. But once again, if you're going to buy a turkey, I would get on the ball and buy your turkey. And because I certainly can't imagine prices being lower in 2 or 3 weeks. So just kind of think of that as a theme: buy now, benefit later, and see if you can save some money or avoid any price hikes in goods and services. Now, turkeys are having a supply problem, and inflation is nothing but a supply and demand problem. Think of it this way. If you have inflation, you have the demand for a certain widget, we'll call it a widget, and that you have a demand, you got very short numbers of those widgets in supply. So the since the supply is limited, the price goes up on the widgets that you have and continues to go up because it's just more expensive because there's just all this demand for it. So if money's not an object and you are trying to buy a widget and that widget is $10 more in price, just went up another $20, you probably pay for it because you want a widget. Little Johnny is expecting a widget for his Christmas morning. And so it's the widget of the year and you've got to get it for little Johnny. So you pay 20, $30 over what you would have paid, but and that's supply and demand. That's inflation. That's why prices go up. So turkeys are facing, and they did this a couple of years ago as well, facing a problem. I'll never forget. I grocery shop at Market Street, and this guy in the produce aisle said, "Hey, if you didn't see it, go over there and check out the turkeys. They're 99 cents for a butterball turkey, huge turkey, 99 cents." Obviously, they had what oversupply of turkeys, and they were giving it to people for next to nothing to get them out of the place. So I thought to myself, I've never made a turkey before. I'm going to get one of those turkeys. I mean, how expensive can it be? 99 cents. It was either 99 cents or 99 cents a pound. But anyway, I digress. Get that home, I'll stick it in my freezer, and a year later, it was still in the freezer. 2 years later, it's still in the freezer. I didn't ever cook that turkey. But no regrets here because I probably would not have enjoyed it. Anyway, so before we move on from turkeys, buy today if you can. I just think it makes. I just can't imagine turkey prices going down. Let me put it to you that way. And 99 cent a pound or 99 cent turkeys at the after Christmas shopping after Christmas is over with. Amazon this year to date it has on their prices up 12.8%. Target is up 5.5%. Walmart is up 5.3%. Now, what Black Friday is going to look like, and you know what is interesting? I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's almost like retailers are not even trying. And it may, and I don't get that. They're not even, because normally, even though it's only the what day is it? The 5th or the 6th or the 7th? I don't know. I can't see my. Oh, it's the 6th. Even though it's the 6th and Thanksgiving's 2 or 3 weeks down the road, typically you have retailers fighting over the valuable Christmas dollar, and you don't really see that happening. And, you know, the point being is that retailers may not be marketing as aggressively ahead of time, but they will do some things as it gets into December, of course, that will be very aggressive. And I'll speak to that in just a second with credit cards, but I'll talk about that here in just a second. But you want to focus on the prices, and this is kind of a good thing because it's easier to manage with Amazon. And here's the other thing too: Amazon's really cut their workforce, and UPS has cut their workforce. So the next day buy-in may not be as dependable as they say it will be. So anyway, you just want to keep that in mind. But why focus on the big three? They have the buying power to get lower priced products at wholesale levels, and that helps quite a bit. So the statistic to give you an idea about some of these price increases and what they look like. Apparel prices increased 14.2%. Indoor and outdoor home goods prices rose 15.3%. Pets and consumable prices rose 11.3%. Health and beauty prices rose 13.2%. And hard lines, category, I don't know what that is, prices rose 11.9%, and that is year to date, is what they're basing that on. So now, what I did mention earlier was watch out for aggressive credit card marketing, and that's everything from get 20% off, because you know what they're banking on. They're banking on you messing up with that credit card and paying all these high interest rates. I don't care what the deal is when it comes right down to it. I think you've got to be careful if you take out a credit card. So maybe here's what could be running in your mind. I'm a little bit short on money this Christmas. I want my kids to have a good Christmas. I'll take out a Target credit card or Walmart credit card, and I'll just call that my Christmas fund, and I'll pay that back by the end of the year. Then I'll start over again and pay. And of course, you're paying interest. You started this terrible situation process of creating interest, high interest. Remember, it's going to be high. They are so unbelievably high on their interest rates, all credit cards. And so that's the last thing that you absolutely want to do. Just think about almost every dollar you spend with a credit card, it could be as much as 28, 29, 30%, and pretty bad. Then they're going to have the credit card set up to where you can bring over a balance and hold it for 18 months, 15 months, whatever it is. Just be extremely careful, because if you make one mistake, and they don't care that you made a mistake, they just want to, they're in it to make money, and that's the way it is. So just once again, don't be tempted. I'm curious as to how many people thought of that strategy before or even tried it before, or are trying it right now. It's the statistics are really discouraging. They show how many people are still paying Christmas debt off from 2024 at today's interest rates. So the only way to get, just to throw this out there, the only way to get through and get beyond the debt problem and get it taken care of is to stop the bleeding, which means stop the charging. So hopefully, and we're going to talk a lot about that this coming up segments for this next year, and get you financially prudent stewardship ready. So what does this do to the stock market? Well, the stock market is facing quite a bit of what's called headwinds right now. And the biggest headwind that I've seen maybe in 4 or 5 years is the decision from the Supreme Court that should be, I don't know when they're supposed to come up with their decision. They're talking about it in courts in session right now. But if Trump had the authority to put tariffs on companies, if they come back and say that he did not have the authority, I can't tell you that what might happen to the market, but it could be a huge decline. I'm not trying to be a doom and gloomer or an alarmist. I'm just telling you what's going on, and that could be one of the biggest things we've ever seen. I mean, the question comes back: how do you take $1 trillion that's been paid in and unravel all that? And how do you unravel trade agreements? And then does that shut down international trade? There are so many questions, which leads me to believe they will. I don't know. I just can't imagine them shutting that tariff system down. Maybe there's a compromise. Maybe he'll have the ability to do some things, but not all things. Who knows? We'll keep you posted. This is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.